the first thing that we have to admit is that we're all on very uncharted terrain here. Even the governments that are doing things best are making up policies as we go.
The toolkits for addressing these problems are quite different from previous crises. And we should be very clear about this. We do not know very much which are the best policies to address this crisis.
The range of uncertainty is gigantic, and I think the willingness to experiment and to learn along the way must be very, very substantial as well.
The composition or the structure of the economy in many emerging markets is very different from that of developed countries. And I want to mention this because I think a lot of the policies have been inspired by economic structures that are very different from ours.
What is the priority? The payment systems, the entrepreneurial capacity that we have accumulated, those who are most in need. I think the question is very clear that we cannot do whatever it takes. We can only do whatever we can, as Mauricio said. So what is it that we do as a priority?
What we are facing is a transitory shock, but a very deep transitory shock, which has the possibility to produce a lot of damage in terms of destroying companies, destroying jobs.
The key thing that firms have is entrepreneurial capital. And that is a combination of know-how and the right workers. If, as a result of liquidity constraints, firms go belly up, firms close, or firms have to shed a lot of labor, there's one thing we know: the recovery is going to be very, very slow.
I do agree that firms have some form of entrepreneurial capital, know-how, and the right workers, but it differs. It differs between formal and informal firms. It differs between large, medium, small. It differs between established, not established. Not all have the same to, if you want, merit or create an externality worth subsidizing. The tour guide, it's not clear to me we need to save the tour guide. It is not clear to me we need to be saving all these offices that were being used for a lot of public activities that are just not going to happen.
Yes, there are travel agents and bus companies and transport companies and hotels that probably will not make it. But the truth of the matter is we have no idea. So my suggestion would be, let's have that discussion 6 months from now, a year from now. And in the time being, let us endeavor to provide enough financing so that most firms make it at least to the first half of the year. Economic policy provides the means by which firms may have the liquidity, keep paying workers, they maybe will remain constant on their loans, and therefore they will be ready to produce when we go back to some semblance of normality, or maybe that will not happen.
Everything depends on the political system, and the political system will be, in my opinion, significantly stressed, and so the possibility to respond in the medium-long term to the effects of this crisis will be challenged significantly.
The list of things governments can be doing, ought to be doing, and in some cases are doing is long. They could be paying wages, either directly or indirectly, to keep that employment relationship from collapsing. We can provide subsidized credit or direct lines of credit by the central bank. In some cases, equity injections may be called for, and equity injections help because they give control. So you make sure that, in fact, the money is used to pay workers and to settle debts and to keep investing and not to fuel capital flight.
The one that may last a little bit long, but also takes longer to recuperate or to come back are the formal jobs. So there may be something to be said to try to protect a formality.
A lot of the questions, I may tell you, that we are receiving from the audience are about protecting people, protecting the informal sector workers.
Yes, it is a tragedy from a humanitarian point of view. The government cannot go and help every firm that is informal. But Laura is right. From a productivity point of view, the entrepreneurial capital we really want to save is the formal entrepreneurial capital.
In Latin America, one will say, well, many of those who can be supported, and especially many of those that can get the support, may not be necessarily the ones with the biggest organizational capital, maybe the ones that are more connected.
So not all should be saved. And we also need to create new ones. So that is my view, that saving every job and saving over every firm is not correct, because even before there were things that we needed to shut down, and now we need to invest in new things. And that is why, on top of the fact that we just don't have the money that rich countries have, we do need to focus on the vulnerable. I do think we need to keep formal activity, and we need to allocate funds there. But beyond that, saving every job and saving every firm, I just don't think we have the fiscal space or the capacity to do it.
Laura's absolutely right. Firms are unlike each other. And clearly, the organizational capital of a very sophisticated firm is very different from that of an informal kiosco that sells candy on a street corner. But here, paradoxically, we may be lucky, because the ability of government to provide support, credit, guarantees, and all kinds of things is going to be limited largely to formal or semi-formal firms. Because it's very hard to pay somebody's wages if there's no contract that specifies how much the person makes.
With the social unrest and economic inequality that characterized Latin America and was very evident in the previous year, with several social problems and riots in many countries.
Linking to what Minister Briones said about the social unrest and the discontent, who makes those choices? I think Laura and Andres, is not just what are the right choices, but how they are made could be very important as to what is saved and what not. What are the choices? Ways that we should be prioritizing the entrepreneurial capacity, the formal sector, the informal sector, those in need. Of course, we can gain some time, but sooner or later, there is a need for big decisions. We come from a period of social unrest and a lot of discontent in Latin America. The transparency, the consensus of the mechanisms through which we reach those decisions will be very important for the legitimacy of what comes.